Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of This Day in Hockey, and a sad one today, the day after the passing of Dale Hawerchuk, gone far, far too soon. My goodness, 57, and I think when we got the news a short while ago that his cancer had returned, those of us, sadly, that have experience in our families or with friends and whatnot, there is a lot of good stories for sure of people being able to continue the fight or beat it a second time or a third time or get it in remission and all those things. But in a lot of circumstances, it's a very difficult battle if it does return. And clearly in this case for Dale it was. And sadly we lost him yesterday. His family lost him of, so much so, more so that for them than any of us. But I wanted to offer up a couple of comments on Dale. I did do several gigs with him over the years, most notably for his own golf tournament. Andrew Jackson from Jackson Events brought me in. I forget who their scheduled MC was, but somebody was unable to make it. I was kind of a last-minute replacement and had the great fortune to go to Muskoka and play golf up there. And they had just a fabulous turnout of former NHLers, and Dale's name headlines it all. And huge fundraiser, and had a chance to sit down, have a couple pints with him the day before, and Andrew, go over the logistics of the tournament mostly, but we had met previously, and it actually provides me with a great anecdote. It's mostly Bobby Hull's, but Dale was the precursor for it. This is around 2008, 2009 in Cornwall, where Dale played junior. He's Oshawa by birth, Cornwall by Junior A, Winnipeg by draft. He's always going to be a Winnipeg Jet. And the most appropriate thing I could think of wearing today was a Team Canada Canadian Hockey t-shirt. He represented Canada on 6 times, winning 2 Canada Cups, and we'll touch on that in a second. But in Cornwall, again, my job was MC and conduct a couple of hot stoves and bring up some of the guys in the crowd, notably Bobby Hull. Bobby Hull has a long-standing history with Cornwall as well through one of his sons who played Junior A there, but he's been there many, many times. And I'm up on the stage with Bobby Hull, and Dale Hawerchuk is heckling him. Yet, it was unbelievable. He's really giving it to him when we're on the microphone, Bobby and I, up on the stage, and he's chirping Bobby saying, "You had all those goals. Where were your assists, man? Where were your assists?" Like, he's giving him the gears because Bobby had more goals and assists and was more known as a shooter and everything. And Bobby, if you've ever seen him at any event where he's working, he has a little bit of a drawl. He talks very deliberately and very formally, even if he's just fooling around. And he just says, "Mr. Hawerchuk, the only reason I passed the puck was to get in a better position to get it back and shoot it." And the whole place just broke up. Nobody laughed louder or longer than Dale, and of course, just having fun. The two men loved each other, and it was my first real experience professionally with Dale, and he was just a consummate gentleman. He came up on stage with me as well, and we talked about his hockey career at that time. He hadn't started coaching yet. He hadn't started with the Barrie Colts yet, I don't believe. I think it was just a couple years later when he started with Barrie, if I'm not mistaken. So and that career, part of his life was outstanding as well. I mean, the men who played for him, the young men who played for him, and his record in Barrie, very similar to that of his own when he played in the NHL. If you think about it, playing on the Winnipeg Jets at that time, with Edmonton and Calgary being the powerhouses that they were, primarily the Oilers, but the Flames were no slouches. And you go to the Sabres, you go to the Blues, you go to the Flyers. I mean, he only made one final, and it came with the Flyers in his last year, 1997. But you look at the tweet that Eric Lindros put out yesterday on Dale's passing, and how heartfelt it was, and you could just tell, right? So this was a man that was loved and beloved, and it's just an absolute, just a monumental, sad day to lose anybody at that age. Like, 2020 can't end fast enough for me personally and many, many others. It's been tough, and it's just a real shame to lose a guy like that. Dale broke into the NHL, Calder Trophy winners, most of you know, and At the time, he became the youngest player to record 100 points in a season. That is since broken by Sidney Crosby. But he had 6 100-point seasons in his first 7 years in the NHL. That's spectacular. Before he went to the Sabres, he ended up scoring his 500th goal as a member of the St. Louis Blues when his coach was Mike Keenan. And Mike Keenan coached Dale in Oshawa in Junior B. So all these years later, Mike was behind the bench when Dale got his 500th goal. And of course, Keenan coached him in that famous 87 Canada Cup as well. And, and about that, so here's the stories that float around about that, because they put out the line, right? The game's tied 5-5. It's in the dying minutes, as everybody knows. Face-off, left of Grand Fuhr, inside Canada's zone. And out comes Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Dale Hawerchuk. Now, the story goes, I was on a Zoomcast with Mike Keenan just a couple months ago. And he says that he had told Wayne to take the draw. But that when they went out there, and this only came to him after. I don't know if he was told this that night, the next day, the next week, down the road. But what he indicated on the Zoomcast was that he told Wayne to take the draw. And when they got out there, Wayne said, Mario, you take it. He said, I'm not taking it. I said, Dale, you take it. And Dale took the draw, and we know what happened after that. Now, I don't know where the truth lies and where it doesn't, but it makes for a good story, I guess. Sometimes they say don't let the story get in the way of the facts. Maybe Mike went out and told Dale to take the draw. I don't know. He says no today. Dale's still alive then, obviously, a couple months ago when this was being discussed, and nobody ever came out to refute it. I just think it's kind of a neat story because the rest of it, as we well know, is as the play goes up the ice and Wayne's racing down the left side and Mario's steaming up and Larry Murphy's coming up to be the decoy, Dale gives Bekoff a little bit of who was on the draw, who he had beat on the draw, a little bit of a tug, and Bekoff went down like he was shot from the grassy knoll. And I sat right across from Don Koharski a few years ago, and he said there was no way in hell I was calling that. He dove. He may as well have gone off a diving board. And so he didn't call it. And Wayne throws it to Mario, and Mario fires her home. And the culmination of 3 greatest games ever played ended with Dale Hawerchuk won faceoff. And I think the video was surfacing of Dale scoring the 5th goal for Team Canada. He got 4 goals in that Canada Cup. In the 9 games, I believe he had 6 points. In the 91 Canada Cup, he had, I believe, 5 points in 8 games. He played his role. He could still contribute, obviously, offensively. No question about that. And yet he ends up being part of some of these great footnotes, 500 goal scorer, 1,000-point scorer, Stanley Cup finalist, Calder Trophy winner, Hockey Hall of Fame inductee, 2001. Ripped up junior in Cornwall, back-to-back Memorial Cups. Extremely rare to do that, including, I believe, a 183-point season his last year. Junior turns pro. What Bobby Hull did to Winnipeg in the WHA in 72-73, you fast forward 9 years, and Dale Hawerchuk put a great big giant rubber stamp right on top of that. I mean, everything that Bobby Hull meant at Portage in Maine that day in 72, Dale Hawerchuk meant the same, if not maybe more. Given it was full-on NHL at that time. Bobby was gone. Jets did not have a good first season. In fact, in that year, Dale helped lead them to a massive resurgence, which at the time was biggest single-season point improvement in NHL history. San Jose later passed it about a decade later, where they improved by 58 points. Unbelievable. But the record previous to that was Winnipeg Jets in Dale's first year. So I think on the ice, everything that he did is well noted. Anecdotally, like I said, he was the youngest player at one point to have a 100-point season, but I think it just as everybody else has indicated, the few times I did have a chance to work with him, it's just the character of the man, the generosity, the genuine feeling of wanting to give back as much as he could every day of his life. And so for his family, his wife and his children, the most heartfelt condolences to them. They're on the front line of the biggest loss here. And for those that did have a chance to get to know him very well, then certainly you as well. I was not one of those, but at least I did have occasion. The biggest travesty really is that he wasn't voted one of the top 100 players of all time. That's anyone who saw him play knows that's a farce. You have to understand, when they did that list, the first priority was winning Stanley Cups. There's about 20 guys that probably shouldn't be on that list. If you were taking the full definitive list of the top 100 players of all time, and there's one or two that are playing right now today that aren't on it that should be on as well. And the whole thing was skewed toward winning Stanley Cups, which is fine. That's fine, because you can put any criteria on anything you want. That's the criteria they put. So Dale, having never won a cup, he doesn't make the list of top 100 players of all time. That's a farce. That really is. So that's the only. It's a small negative thing, and it's obviously not negative against him. It's just a different form of a classification that I'll say as I finish talking about the man. So that's all I really want to say and got to say. And in typical fashion, of course, a little shot of Jameson's here to toast his memory, and I'm so glad I got an opportunity to meet him a little bit and talk a little hockey and share a couple anecdotes with the guy on stage and off stage, and I'll certainly never forget those times, and I'll never forget him as a hockey player, and I'll never forget for what he did for Canadian hockey. Played in the World Juniors when it was still a club team event. He represented Cornwall Royals. He played in 3 World Championships. And he won those 2 Canada Cups in impressive fashion. And what he did in '87 on that draw and on that play will never, ever, ever be forgotten in the 3 greatest games ever played in the history of the sport of hockey. Played by Team Canada against the Soviets in '87. Here's to you, Dale. God bless you. May you rest in peace. Condolences again to your family and everybody else who knew him well. G'day.